All right, welcome. We're going to get started here. We have a number of bills, and then we have a supplemental 2 briefing, and so we've got to roll through these. We're going to start with House Bill 1292. Chair Bagnall, Chair here. Good to see you, Chair. Welcome. Please, if you have a panel, bring them up. And just for all the witnesses that are here today, we have a 2-minute rule on witnesses. We're going to adhere to that very strictly since we do have a 3 o'clock budget hearing to attend as well. So 2 minutes per witnesses, and I will cut you off today. Chair.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Heather Bagnall, District 33C, Anne Arundel County, here in strong support of House Bill 1292, Child Advocacy Centers, continuity of care standards for healthcare professionals, and reports of violations. As this committee is aware, child advocacy centers are community-based, child-friendly, and trauma-informed organizations that facilitate a multidisciplinary response to child abuse allegations. CACs deliver a best practice model to support children and families throughout the process of investigation, prosecution, and healing. Child advocacy centers provide a safe, child-focused environment where the child's well-being is a priority. Maryland has 24 child advocacy centers, 1 in every county in Baltimore City, which provide critical services for some of Maryland's most vulnerable children who have experienced abuse or neglect. Now, there is no question that our child advocacy centers do extraordinary work, and this bill is not only an affirmation of that work, but a recognition that the state needs to take a more active role in ensuring that the work continues. For over 3 decades, child advocacy centers have been an integral part of Maryland's care network and a crucial tool in fighting child abuse. 3 years ago, this body set out on a journey of understanding when House Bill 1100 was introduced, which would have required child advocacy centers to report annually to the Behavioral Health Administration certain information related to their behavioral health care services, and to issue an annual report to authorize the Secretary of Health to investigate certain complaints. The bill was the result of an ongoing dispute between a CAC and a behavioral health provider, and although that bill did not ultimately pass and the dispute was resolved through other means, the work to understand the bill identified a more concerning and overarching issue. Despite receiving significant state funding through the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy, or GOCAP, these centers currently lack specific oversight or accountability mechanisms through the state. House Bill 1292 will establish oversight standards for Maryland's child advocacy centers, shoring up the safety net for some of our most vulnerable children. The bill requires GOCAP to collect complaints against the centers and produce an annual report, authorizes GOCAP to refer them to the Attorney General for further review, streamlining all complaints in response through GOCAP and aligning the process with the center's funding source. Additionally, the bill applies to individuals employed by the CACs, ensuring that the centers can be held accountable for their staff's actions and must ensure all providers of mental health are licensed or certified by the appropriate health occupations boards, providing a meaningful role of oversight to the state of Maryland while holding centers accountable to ensure quality and continuity of care. I want to thank Chair Shetty, the subcommittee chair, for being such a great partner and continuing to work with stakeholders. We partnered on this effort last year when our chair, now speaker, made it a priority, and continuing to work with stakeholders during the 2025 session, and this committee amended House Bill 1480 into a posture which passed unanimously from this committee and passed the House 137-1. House Bill 1292 is in the same posture as it passed out of the House in 2025, and we have additional amendments which have been recommended by stakeholders in review, and are they're mostly clarifying in nature, and I believe create a consensus. We do still have some outstanding concerns from the Attorney General, who just wants to clarify at what point that the Attorney General's office would be a part of this. So I will just say House Bill 1292, it's an essential step to ensure our most vulnerable children continue to receive the highest standard of care the COCs already maintain, and ensure we are holding ourselves accountable to ensuring our state dollars are meaningfully supporting these individuals. And for these reasons, I ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1292, and I'll turn it over to my panel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And you know, we passed it unanimously last year. I think the amendments are good, so sometimes take yes for an answer to the panel. So anything you want to add, please.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Stephanie Wolf, and I'm a child and forensic psychologist here in Maryland. I'm also the president of the Maryland Psychological Association, and I'm here to testify with strong support for House Bill 1292. Child advocacy centers are very special, important places. However, no place is infallible, not even CACs. I was part of a terrible incident at a CAC in 2020 in which 5 therapists reported wrongdoing at a center and our employment was terminated. This resulted in 41 children suddenly losing their mental health providers. The employment matter was settled and the firings were reclassified as resignations, but no one helped the children impacted. Abused children suddenly lost their therapists. These children had been abused by parents, people they loved, and people they trusted, but had found a safe space with their therapists. The sudden loss of the therapist was like a surgeon leaving in the middle of a procedure. The lack of required continuity of care plans at child advocacy centers allowed this to occur. With no state oversight, there was nothing anyone could do to help. These kids required more than just a new therapist. They required a goodbye with their old therapist, they required an understanding of what happened, and a new therapist trained in the treatments that they were receiving. None of these children received those basic tenets of mental health continuity of care. Mental health providers were also put in a terrible position. Us as providers tried to find help and follow best practices, but were barred from contact. Forcing providers to abandon patients also puts therapists in an untenable position in which they have to break ethical and legal requirements to no fault of their own and risk board complaints and licensure issues. Worse than that is also forcing providers to know that they were part of causing distress in the very children they had dedicated their careers to helping. This bill is very needed. This bill aims to provide the oversight to CACs. It will force strong policies to protect kids and providers. I am so appreciative to Chair Bagnall, Vice Chair Cullison, and Delegate Shetty for listening, hearing, and more importantly, doing something to protect these most vulnerable children. I am pleased that we've been able to come together with the CACs and make such significant progress.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
We look forward to this partnership. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. I am Dr. Pat Savage, a retired psychologist who spent 40-plus years serving children and families in Montgomery County. I am also current chair of the Maryland Psychological Association's PAC, past chair of MPA's Legislative Committee, as well as a past president of the association. I am personally testifying in strong support of HB 1292. I have also provided you with more extensive written testimony. This will be the 4th year that the opportunity to provide stronger protection for vulnerable kids, families, and the therapists who serve them has been offered to legislators. We appreciate the support that members of this committee and the House provided for last year's efforts to pass this legislation. We would like to also thank Chair Bagnall, Vice Chair Cullison, and Delegate Shetty for the work they have done this year to bring this bill forward. You have heard from us in prior years about the harm to vulnerable clients, families, and therapists created by a lack of oversight by the CACs. HB 1292 is a step towards requiring accountability from the CACs who provide such valuable services to kids and families. It is a simple ask, ensuring that the behavior of the organization is consistent with the standards of care and ethics of mental health therapists, hence provides additional protections for vulnerable kids, families, and the therapists who serve them. It will provide a safer environment within which to heal the traumas of the past. The legislation also encourages mental health clinicians to participate with CACs, not discourage them from doing so. We should continue to make every effort to encourage qualified, competent mental health professionals to serve vulnerable populations in Maryland. For these and many other reasons, I ask you to provide a favorable report on HB 1292 as we join together to take another step towards building a better mental health system for all Marylanders. Thank you for this opportunity, and I will answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
All right, Dan Shattuck, here today on behalf of the Maryland Psychological Association. Thank you, Chairman Barnes, for this hearing today. Thank you, Delegate Shetty, for your hard work and your dedication to this issue. Also, thank you to Delegate Chair Bagnall and Vice Chair Cullison. It's been a long road. I think we're here today in support. I'm here to answer any questions. Me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chair Bagnall, we'll get it on the vote list just as quickly as we can, okay? And with the amendments, we'll get those worked out too. And to our 2 witnesses that were here, thank you for taking time out of your day to come down here.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We have a few other witnesses. Dorothy Lenig from GoCap. Dorothy, come on up. I saw you in the back there. Wendy Myers, Adam Rosenberg, and Jennifer Whitten.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dorothy Lenig. I'm the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy, otherwise known as GoCap. It's so exciting to be in front of this committee. I'm never in front of this committee, so it's nice to see everybody. I'm here today to urge a favorable report with amendments on House Bill 1292, and GoCap's concerns begin on page 4. The bill requires GoCap to receive complaints made against the CACs for referral to the Attorney General for investigation and further action if necessary. Our concerns are that we don't have staff who have the clinical background to evaluate the complaints. We would need an additional PIN at least to hire somebody with specific knowledge. We also weren't exactly sure what it meant if necessary, like what kinds of complaints are supposed to go to the Attorney General's office. So my concern is if somebody didn't, we can go in, GoCap can go in and figure out if they say that they hired 2 social workers, we can go in and check time and attendance, and we can figure out if they have social workers. What we couldn't figure out is whether they're doing the continuity of care pursuant to their regulations. That we would need somebody with a different level of expertise. Also, we're wondering if it really makes sense for these complaints to go through a third party. Should the complaints really go just directly to the Attorney General's office? I'm afraid it might delay things if they came to GoCap. It also requires, and I haven't seen the amendments, so I'm not sure if any of this came out. It also requires GoCap to report on whether the CACs are in compliance with the statewide standards. Again, we can do a site visit to determine whether the agency is doing what's in, what we fund them for, whether they have the staff doing what they're supposed to do, but we can't really get into the details of the quality of the work. The other thing that was a tiny bit of concern to me is, and we don't mind creating a dashboard that shows the complaints, but what we always worry about when there's so few complaints.
We have to keep to 2 minutes today, but just get us your amendments and we'll take a look at them.
Okay, and then just the other thing, if you can make the 2 reporting dates the same date when they're different dates, it makes
Get them
the
over
data.
to Delegate Shetty, who everyone has called out as sort of taking the lead on this and being such a leader, and we will consider them. I know it passed last year in the form that it is now with GoCap support, so if you have new concerns, just get them over to us. Jennifer, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to be brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for your time today on House Bill 1292. We are here, I'm here with my colleague with Center for Hope, Adam Rosenberg. We serve the Baltimore region area. We have been working diligently. I want to just thank the sponsor, Chair Bagnell, for her open conversations, and in particular, also want to thank Delegate Shetty. She took time twice last year to come to the center to meet with our providers to understand really the sensitivity of the services that we offer the most vulnerable constituents, which are children. So we are here today in support with the sponsor's amendment put forward. We appreciate the collaboration and the input into this issue. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, members of the committee, and certainly a great appreciation to Delegate Shetty, Bagnell, and Cullison for taking the time to visit our center. I'm the executive director of our LifeBridge Health Center for Hope. My name is Adam Rosenberg. I've been in this field for about 25 years now, and many of us have dedicated a lot of time and attention to this issue. I'm really proud to be able to run the oldest child advocacy center in Maryland and the 3rd oldest in the country. Dates back to 1987. I see my delegate Malcolm Ruff over there too. We're in your district. You have a copy of my testimony as well in support with the amendments that we've worked on with the sponsor here. Just to give some color commentary, centers like ours, there's 1,000 of us across the country that are all governed by standards put forth by the National Children's Alliance. They've been endorsed by the Department of Justice. In fact, we just had our site accreditation several weeks ago. It's an every 5-year process, revised by a panel of experts and academics, and conducts these lengthy observations, and we've submitted several hundred pages advantageous to them supporting this year's packet of accreditation. We passed with flying colors, I'm happy to say. But I say this all in that adherence to these standards is really important to us, and I think the work that's been done by the members here on this bill to be able to ensure that there is high fidelity to the model is really critical. We're lucky at the Lifebridge Health Center for Hope to be able to achieve the success to get grants and philanthropy to have our own mental health program. I certainly assert we work very hard to make sure that when there is a mental health practitioner who leaves, that there is continuity of care. It is hard to keep mental health providers there. There's a lot of competition, salaries are high, and frankly, funding for these programs are scarce. And so when there is that change, we work to do that. We support efforts to be able to make sure that other centers who perhaps don't have the depth and breadth that we do are able to do that as well there. And with that, really supporting that, making sure that this continuity of care, this high level of service that we've strived for 40 years to do continues here in Maryland. I thank the
Keep to 2
committee.
minutes today. I'm so sorry. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Wendy Myers, and I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Children's Alliance, or MCA. MCA is the statewide convener of all 24 Maryland child advocacy centers across the state. CACs serve child victims of physical and sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. Over the past 10 years, Maryland CACs provided services to over 54,000 children. In 2025 alone, Maryland CACs served 5,446 children. We understand that the sponsors have been working on potential amendments, and we're requesting just 3 amendments that we believe will strengthen the bill and reflect the unique work of our Maryland CACs. In 2025, the parent, guardian, or step-parent of the child victim was the identified offender 37% of the time. Notification to a parent in these types of cases could compromise an active investigation and put the child at further risk of harm. We suggest an amendment to only provide notification when it would not put the child at risk. CACs do not provide ongoing medical services. Safe exams at CACs do not include long-term or follow-up care typically. As a result, only mental health providers should be included in continuity of care requirements. Finally, MCA agrees with the importance of ensuring that complaints against CAC staff are properly reviewed. However, as currently drafted, the bill does not specify whether the complaints must have been substantiated or investigations concluded. Publishing specific complaint information prior to full adjudication could limit the ability of the state to prosecute these difficult cases. MCA is committed to ensuring that CACs meet national best practice standards and to providing training on appropriate standards of care. We launched our statewide standards for CACs last July. Establishing and supporting these standards reflect our ongoing commitment to building a stable and effective system of care for children who have experienced abuse, violence, exploitation, or trafficking. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the panel? And thank you all and everyone here today. We're just being a little more strict on our 2-minute rule because session ran over, so I appreciate you understanding.
Thank
you.
Appreciate it. Have a good day. That concludes the bill hearing. We're going to go to House Bill 1530. Delegate Warman, if you have a panel, delegate, bring them up. Delegate, is this your first time in front of Appropriations? Yes. Okay. Okay, when it's your first time in front of Appropriations, we have a little joke that we play where everyone asks you a question, raise your hand. But maybe we won't on this time.
In the essence of time, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for being so welcoming. For the record, my name is Delegate Teresa Warman, and thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 1530. I just want to say House Bill 1530 is an update to the Maryland DREAM Act, and I want to say that I don't know how many of you guys were here when the original DREAM Act came to be, but when I started college, I had to pay out-of-state tuition because I was undocumented, and then the DREAM Act came to be, and it was completely life-changing. So anyways, what I'm here to do is to try and get a little bit of an update on the eligibility requirements under the DREAM Act for students seeking out-of-state tuition exemption at Maryland public institutions of higher ed. The current law requires a student or their parent or guardian to provide 3 years of Maryland income tax returns in order to qualify. Through conversations with students, advocates, teachers, institutions, we have seen that this requirement can become an unnecessary barrier for students who deserve and meet all other DREAM Act criteria. The original bill that was introduced repeals the requirement for the tax returns altogether, but in talking with advocates, we've I've agreed to put in an amendment to make it so that we require 1 year of tax returns, which brings it up to parity to what a lot of financial aid offices need from regular students in order to classify them as in-state tuition. This bill does not change any other requirements. Students must still attend and graduate from a Maryland high school or obtain a Maryland GED, enroll in a Maryland institution of higher ed, and demonstrate connection to the state. What the bill does is just remove an overly rigid documentation requirement that can prevent students who grow up in Maryland and who are educated in our schools from continuing their education. And we want to ensure that these students, that these Maryland high school graduates can access higher education benefits, not only the students themselves, for the students themselves, but also to strengthen Maryland's workforce and economy. And for that, I'll turn it over to the rest of my panel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Golden. I am a math teacher in Baltimore City Schools, and I'm here to test favorably for 1530. You're going to hear a lot of testimony today about how this impacts students that don't have the 3 years of tax returns, but I also wanted to highlight how students who do have the tax returns are often kept out of college because of the process required. Undocumented students first apply to college just like everyone else. But the real challenges start after they're admitted. If they are accepted into a Maryland school, they are listed as out of state and staring down $40,000 price tag each year. From there, they have to get certified tax returns for each school that they applied to from the comptroller's office for the past 3 years. That requires a decent amount of paperwork, and students are often facing this hurdle with families that don't speak English at home. And a barrier that we've seen students face this year is that the current law requires students to file or submit tax returns for the current filing year. So if you want to go for, if you're planning to attend college in the fall of 2026, you need to submit tax returns for 2025, which aren't even due yet. This is in contrast to FAFSA, which uses the prior year. And so the process itself, even for students who meet the requirements, are often kept out of college. I'll conclude my time by just noting that the Trump administration continues to pressure the IRS to communicate with DHS, and families are really scared to submit any tax documentation right now. And any of that burden that we can take away from families and allow their students to access college is a positive step in the right direction to saying your academics, not your student, or not your parents' tax returns, should determine where you go to college. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Yudelkis Castellanos, and I am a 12th grade student at Forest Park High School in Baltimore City. I am the daughter of a single mother, and I immigrated to the United States from Guatemala when I was young. I am currently the valedictorian of my class, and I recently matched with the highly competitive Questbridge National Scholarship. I am here today to support HB 1530, which will remove the requirement that undocumented students submit 3 years of their parents' tax returns to qualify for in-state tuition and federal loans. For many students like me, access to higher education is not just a dream, but the only path to a more stable future. Many families come to this country hoping to find better opportunities than the ones they were born into. Many people cross mountains and borders in search of those opportunities, but even after overcoming so many obstacles to get here, another wall is placed right in front of the finish line. The requirement that undocumented students submit 3 years of their parents' tax returns create a barrier that many families simply cannot overcome. It is heartbreaking to see many of those students, my friends, not attend college simply because they cannot provide this paperwork. These students have spent years studying late at night, participating in extracurricular activities, and adapting to a completely new education system and culture. Their ability to attend college should depend on the hard work they put into their education, not on documents their parents cannot provide. I was fortunate to receive a scholarship that will allow me to attend college, but many talented and hardworking students do not receive opportunities like that. HB 1530 will give those students a fair chance to pursue their education and their dreams. By removing this requirement, Maryland can help more students reach their potential and improve their lives of many families across our state. Once again, I respectfully ask you to support HB 1530 so that undocumented students have a fair chance at a higher education. The pursuit of happiness should not come with barriers that prevent hardworking students from reaching the future they had worked so hard to build. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Congratulations, valedictorian. That's quite an accomplishment. I think I speak for the whole committee when I say we're so proud to have students like you in our schools. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Rodriguez, and I am Baltimore High School student. I arrived in Maryland when I was 10th grade and expected to graduate in 2026. I'm here today in support of House Bill 1530. Since I was young, I always worked hard in school because I want to go to college and build a better future. My dream is to be a diplomat. I would like to study international relations so I can contribute to creating an alliance and safe space. However, students like me face many obstacles when we try to continue our education after high school. One of the biggest challenges is the requirement to submit tax returns in order to qualify for in-state tuition. Many students cannot provide these documents due to complicated family situation or because their families cannot share the information. Bill HB 1530 removed this barrier by allowing everyone who graduates from a Maryland high school to receive in a state institution. This change will help many hardworking students who have grown up and studied in Maryland will still face obstacles to continue their education. But even if we qualify for in-state institution, paying for college can still be very difficult. Currently, tax returns are also required to demonstrate financially through the MHEC One app. Because of this, many dreamers cannot access financially even though they truly need it. For this reason, I ask that you allow students to demonstrate their financial situation in other ways. And students like me have grown up in Maryland school and want to continue building our future here. Having access to higher education will allow us to contribute to our communities and the future of Maryland. For this reason, I respectfully ask you to support HB 1530. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the committee. My name is Shannon Welk, and I am We Are CASA's Director of Education, where I support immigrant youth with successful transition to post-secondary education. We Are CASA played an important role in the passage of the Maryland DREAM Act, and since then, thousands of immigrant students have been able to access higher education. However, inequities still remain. Because of this, I am here today in strong support of House Bill 1530. This bill proposes to improve equitable access to higher education by using graduation from a Maryland high school to qualify for in-state tuition. Dropping the current tax return requirement removes a critical barrier to higher education for our unaccompanied youth, recent arrivals, and students facing complex family dynamics. However, it is important to note that many Maryland youth will continue to face economic barriers to college attainment if alternative options beyond tax returns are not permitted to demonstrate economic standing when applying for financial aid through the MHEC One app. House Bill 1530 is a fundamental revision needed to achieve the true intent of the Maryland DREAM Act. It is a compassionate and practical solution that recognizes the unique challenges faced by immigrant students. Moreover, this adjustment extends beyond the individual to support a thriving Maryland economy. Right now, we are missing out on the opportunity for talented, multilingual college graduates to enter the workforce in critical industries such as health and education. For all these reasons, We Are CASA respectfully requests a favorable report on House Bill 1530. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions for the panel? Bill sponsor. Well, Delegate, thank you for the bill. I think there's only two delegates as I look around who are here for the original DREAM Act, and we were both co-sponsors. I think the Vice Chair was here, and I defended it on the and the Vice Chair defended the act on the floor when she was on Ways and Means. So
Amazing.
there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good day. All right, we have more witnesses. Helena Latana, Elena Walsh, Adriana Rosas, Frank Patinella. If you're here, come on up. Frank, good to see you. You can start testifying. Frank, go ahead. Are there any other witnesses here on this bill that I missed? Come on up. All right, that should be everyone. Go ahead and you can start testifying, please. Frank, go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Frank Pathanella, Senior Campaign Strategist for the ACLU of Maryland. We strongly support House Bill 1530. We believe this bill should pass simply because at the core, this bill is about equality and ensuring that higher education is accessible to all Marylanders who are eager to learn and pursue their life aspirations. Maybe not everyone in the room shares this sentiment, but there's a lot of other reasons to support this bill if you're in line with ensuring that our state's economy and our workforce is as educated and as robust as possible. After the DREAM Act passed in 2012, foreign-born and Latinx student enrollment in college and higher education institutions more than doubled over the past decade. So we thank the legislature for passing the bill. But the tax filing requirement is still a barrier for many immigrants. We are seeing only about 20% of undocumented students go on to college after graduating from high school in Maryland, compared to more than 50% of students in the general population. And that number jumps to 71% when we consider post-secondary enrollment 2 years after graduation. To say it plainly, our current law stifles workforce development. It diminishes the pool of skilled workers that could be putting more revenue in state coffers for the many essential services that the state delivers. And Maryland is struggling with workforce shortages. We need more nurses, support staff in our hospitals and healthcare facilities to ensure high quality of care and shorter wait times. Employers in the tech industry are having a hard time finding qualified workers. The Blueprint Plan is creating demand for thousands of teachers and behavioral health specialists. And on top of this, college affordability is a growing crisis. Over the past 2 decades, college tuition has more than doubled. In this state, average in-state tuition for undergraduate increased by 9.1% between 2016 and 2024. During the same period, the average out-of-state tuition costs rose by 26.3%, and private college tuition rose by approximately 16.6%, creating significant barriers for students seeking access to post-secondary education. To sum up, we're asking this committee to stand up for our aspiring learners, our workforce, and for our state's overall economic health as a whole. Please give this bill a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes and honorable members of the committee. My name is Elena Walsh, and I'm here to offer my strong support for House Bill 1530. I work in Baltimore City Schools, and I'm here on behalf of every single one of my students that has been here trying to chase the American dream and was met with unnecessary bureaucracy. Take Luis, the valedictorian who witnessed the murders of both of his parents in his home country, who went from knowing no English to earning 4s and 5s on AP exams in just 3.5 years. He was the most incredible mind that I have ever worked with, and he had dreams of becoming an environmental engineer. Instead of changing the world, he's working as a gas station attendant as he waits for asylum approval. He could not file 3 years of taxes because he did not work for 3 full years here as a teenager by himself with his older brother. Take Esteban, whose mother could not afford to pay the accountant's fee for 3 years, only 1, and he missed registration. Finally, take Selena, who moved here from California. Selena moved here ahead of her mother to live with her aunt, so she would have continuity in her high school. However, when her mother moved here 2 years later, she was only able to file 1 year of Maryland taxes, and Selena now works for a catering company when she would have been finishing up her nursing degree last year, a degree that would really come in handy in our state with our current nursing shortage. Currently, the only viable post-secondary choices for undocumented students are to work at low-paying jobs or to go to college, as trade programs, the governor's service year, and the military are often not available to them. With this, it is incomprehensible that we dangle this amazing opportunity in front of our hardworking students and then make it difficult for them to access. I understand the reasoning behind having families pay taxes for the benefit of in-state tuition rates. However, for citizens to qualify for the exact same benefits, they are only required to demonstrate for at least 12 consecutive months immediately prior to course registration that they had the continuous intent to reside in Maryland indefinitely and for the primary purpose other than that of attending an educational institution. There's no specific tax requiring filing requirement for citizens. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adriana Rosas, and I work as a college advisor at Forest Park High School in Baltimore City. For the past 8 years, I've worked in college access, and I want to start with college is hard enough, being an immigrant is hard enough, and being a first-generation college-going student is hard enough. In every year of my work, I encounter undocumented students who cannot qualify for in-state tuition because either they or their parents have not filed 3 years of Maryland state taxes. I'm on the front lines asking the uncomfortable questions of 1, are you a citizen? 2, who takes care of you financially? And 3, have you, your parent, or guardian filed Maryland state taxes for the past 3 years? And you can imagine those are uncomfortable questions, even more so now with the Trump administration. I take a sigh of relief if the student responds yes to questions 1 or 3. If the child says no, I have to break the news to them that unfortunately they do not qualify for in-state tuition despite wanting to pursue a degree or a trade school certification. I've had kids break down crying in my office, and the only consolation that I can give them is that they work really hard to apply for national and small local scholarships that might help cover the cost of college. No child should have the dream to pursue higher education and be denied the ability to go to a college that will fit them academically, socially, and financially. Research consistently shows the positive impacts of higher education. I would like to leave you with the story of a recent high school senior who has extraordinary musical talent. I see many students have met them. This kid is special. And he works a job to support himself and lives with his brother, who is his guardian. However, together they have only filed 2 years of Maryland state taxes. If HB 1530 were passed, he would be able to afford in-state tuition and pursue his dream, perhaps even becoming a famous musician from Maryland. Taking a gap year after you graduate from high school is extremely dangerous and something that I don't advise students to complete, especially when you are first generation. So when students tell me, especially an undocumented student tells me that they're going to take a gap year, it's dangerous. This could help other kids.
Thanks for your advocacy, yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee. My name is Aviva Thal, and I am here in support of House Bill 1530. I work for a college access nonprofit in a Baltimore City school where the majority of students are immigrants. I see on a daily basis the ways in which tax filing requirements for undocumented families to receive in-state tuition prevent students from furthering their education. Out-of-state tuition is about double that of in-state tuition. The most affordable option, community college, is about $10,000 per year, which is out of reach for most students in this situation. There are many reasons students or their families are unable to file the necessary taxes to qualify. Following are the cases of several of my students, names changed to protect privacy. Maria has a 3.8 GPA and ranks 3rd in her class. She has been accepted to multiple four-year universities. Although her mother started filing taxes as soon as she arrived in the U.S., they have not been in the country long enough to meet the 3-year tax requirement to qualify for in-state tuition. Raul is a 19-year-old student who lives by himself. In addition to attending high school, he works full-time in order to support himself. Although he is filing his taxes for 2025, he is struggling to pay for basic necessities and cannot afford to backfile for 2023 and 2024 in order to qualify for in-state tuition. Anna moved out of her mother's house because it was an abusive environment. Her mother refuses to share Anna's documents, including tax returns, with her, meaning she is unable to apply for in-state aid or tuition. If she were a U.S. citizen, she would qualify for aid as an independent student. But as an immigrant, she slips through the cracks. Henry's family used to file taxes, but starting last year, they stopped out of fear that the IRS would share their information with immigration enforcement. No family should have to choose between protecting their privacy and safety and giving their child the opportunity to continue their education. This is the choice that Henry's family was forced to make. Every day, I work with talented, motivated, hardworking immigrant students for whom college is financially out of reach due to circumstances outside of their control. Eliminating the tax filing requirement for the in-state tuition exemption would be life-changing for my students and students across Maryland. Thank you.
Any questions for the panel? Well, thanks to all the advocates who have been here today, particularly our students who have been so eloquent. Appreciate your advocacy.
Thank you.
Have a good day. That concludes the bill hearing. Let's go to Delegate Miller. Come on up. House Bill 1329, we have Timothy Meyer and Sarah Sample here on the bill as well. If you don't mind having them join you, I'd ask them to come up.
Of course.
And we have Alex Donahue from the IAC for just for questions or information only. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. For the record, and committee, for the record, I am Delegate April Miller, representing District 4, Frederick County, here to present House Bill 1329, which moves our state's annual school construction funding goal from $450 million to $550 million, starting in FY27. When we passed the $450 million goal in 2022, it was a solid target. But since then, the ground has shifted beneath us. Last September, Comptroller Learman released a state spending series report that should be required reading for all in our body. It describes a perfect storm of aging infrastructure and skyrocketing costs that makes our current funding goals obsolete. According to the Comptroller's report, we are currently facing an infrastructure deficit that threatens our academic goals. 1,090 of Maryland's 1,361 public schools, over 80%, require significant repair, renovation, or total replacement. 46% of our schools, about 627 buildings, are now officially classified as functionally unreliable. These are buildings that are failing their occupants every day. And between FY21 and FY26, the state was only able to fund 56% of the construction requests sent in by local school boards. We are leaving nearly half of the state's needs on the table every year. So why $100 million? Increase. The increase in House Bill 1329 is simple math. The dollar does not buy what it used to. In 2020, construction costs were roughly $392 a square foot. In 2026, those costs have surged to $600 per square foot, a 42% increase. The Comptroller's report notes that a single new classroom now averages over $1 million. If we stay at the $450 million goal, we aren't holding steady. We are effectively cutting the number of projects we can complete by nearly a third. And we see it every day play out in Frederick County. Brunswick High School, which was built in 1965, has a physical condition that has been declining for decades. While we have a replacement on the books for 2030, the cost of that project increases by millions every year we wait for the matching funds. Middletown High and the Middletown campus are currently in the critical red zone on the Facility Condition Index. We are asking students to learn in buildings that are literally at the very, very end, if not over, the end of their useful lives. And we have a 70-year-old elementary school in Frederick County, which is a very high growth area. And the Comptroller's report reminds us that statewide local governments are already shouldering 74% of construction costs. We can't keep asking our local property taxpayers to fill a gap created by inflation. House Bill 1329 is a fiscal reality check. It ensures that the state's commitment to our children's safety and success keeps pace with the actual cost of construction. We can't achieve blueprint results in basement-level facilities, and I urge a favorable report on House Bill 1329.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chair Barnes, committee members, Delegate Miller, and other sponsors. I'm Timothy Meyer, a former 5-term PTO president, urging a favorable report on HB 1329. Raw sewage in classrooms, black mold and asbestos. One Route 1 student told their parent about holes in the floor of their animal-infested, overheated classroom trailer. Don't worry, kids only fall in sometimes. That's a summary of the now $20 billion school construction and maintenance backlog we faced in Prince George's County. And thanks to this committee, we are finally making progress. But progress takes funding, and every student in Maryland, in every county, deserves the right to live in a safe, modern deserves the right to learn in safe, modern buildings that aren't decades beyond adequacy. The bipartisan nature of this bill makes clear. We don't have red schools or blue schools. Maryland students deserve new schools. School construction is more than new buildings. It's also local economic development and jobs. In Prince George's, our Phase 1 program meant $70 million for county-based businesses, and 34% of contracts awarded to 101 minority businesses. My eldest now attends the new world-class Hyattsville Middle School, but every student deserves that same opportunity. I'm here today for all the other kids who are waiting for their new building. HB 1329 won't build every new school, and it doesn't replace the need for a Built to Learn Act Part 2 and new dedicated school construction funding streams in the future, which I'll work with any of you to achieve. but it's an important first step, would mean an extra $100 million in much-needed funding, and I ask for a favorable report. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee for having me. My name is Sarah Sample, here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties, and we support House Bill 1329. I think the delegate sponsor did a wonderful job explaining a lot of the things that I was going to go into, so I'll cut through some of that. But we think that this is an important step in the right direction. This is a MACO top 4 initiative for this year. I had a really great conversation with the chair about this and many members of the committee as far as this being something that's really important to us, and we do have a lot of irons in the fire as far as trying to get more funding into school construction, but this is certainly a statewide concern that we have amongst our members, and we think that this bill can really just help move more projects forward faster. And then we also just want to point out the bipartisan effort here. We think this is something where there's really, I think, little disagreement as far as the repair and maintenance and condition of the inventory right now, and some of the requirements in the blueprint that would necessitate certain renovations. So we think this is a great bill. We're really happy to support it, and we really appreciate the delegate for bringing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Delegate Miller, I guess what I appreciate the most about you putting this bill in is its acknowledgement that sometimes goals, mandates, and even fees do have to be increased. And if we're going to rely on fees to improve our roads and bridges, sometimes we have to increase a fee if it hasn't been increased in 20 years. In this case, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago that this goal was put into place, and inflation has hit us pretty hard since then. And so I hope you will join us on lots of issues like this where we may have to look at fees to make sure that we have adequate funding for some of these special funds.
I think my votes speak pretty well for myself.
They do,
yeah.
but you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for panel? Thank you so much. Thank you for the bill.
Thank you.
Concludes the bill hearing. Let's go to Delegate Chang. 1430.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the House Appropriations Committee. I'm Mark Chang, member of the Maryland House Delegates District 32, and presenting House Bill 1430, which is about fairness for Maryland's public charter school students. Today, nearly 25,000 students attend public charter schools across 8 counties in Baltimore City, yet their schools often face significant challenges when it comes to paying for and maintaining their facilities. Unlike their traditional school peers who receive funding through the IAC and their LEA, public charter school students must have a portion of their blueprint funds diverted from the instruction to the cost of the school facility. This bill will help address that inequity by providing per pupil funding in the amount of $1,600 annually directly to charter schools for facility expenses. It also positions Maryland to access the federal school facility incentive grant program, which could bring up to $10 million a year for 5 years to support the funding of the program. As you'll hear from our panel, including our parents, students, board members, sector leaders, and experts on the federal grant program, this is an opportunity to bring new federal resources to Maryland, righting inequity in the public education sector and supporting safe, high-quality learning environments for our public charter school students. And on that note, respectfully ask for a favorable report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Leela Gupta. I am in 6th grade at Frederick Classical Charter School in Frederick, Maryland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of HB 1430. I have been at the school since 2nd grade. Ever since I can remember, I have had big ideas, but not always the loudest voice. At a charter school like FCCS, teachers noticed and encouraged student ideas and gave us a platform to try different things. Because of their support, I've served in student government since 4th grade, joined school clubs, and even prepared a science project for the county science fair. These opportunities helped me build confidence to stand here today and advocate before the Maryland General Assembly for schools like mine. Although my teachers and administrators have done so much for me, I know they're doing it with far fewer resources than other Frederick County employees. That's why I'm here today. I'm not asking for much. I'm simply asking that our school be funded equitably, like other public schools in the county, so we can have the same basic things that they do, like an actual school building, a building where the art room doesn't have to share space with a library, a playground that doesn't have to share space with a parking lot, and a full-size gym so our basketball team can practice at our own school. With your support, we can ensure that our school can have the space, resources, and opportunities that every public school student deserves. I hope you will support this bill so that our teachers can continue their amazing work, and so that students like me and my classmates can have the same chances as every other child in Frederick County. Thank you for your support.
Excellent job. Thank you for being with us.
Good afternoon. My name is Eleanor Sawyer, or Ellie as most people call me. I'm an 8th grade student at Watershed Public Charter School in Windsor Mill, and I'm testifying in favor of House Bill 1430 today. Watershed is an environmental arts school with over 400 students in K through 8th. Students come from all over Baltimore County to attend it for free. The building itself is rented from the nearby church. Part of what makes Watershed special is a strong community, hands-on projects, gardens, chickens, and a general embrace of mud. I've attended Watershed since its opening when I was in 2nd grade. I will be graduating at the end of the school year, which will be both a joy and a huge sorrow. By attending Watershed, I am a public and a charter school student. However, being a part of the Baltimore County public school system, having BCPS teachers and principal, and a BCPS login doesn't mean that my school receives the same funding as other BCPS schools. As a charter school, Watershed is responsible for all the costs to operate our school building and to make repairs and replacements. Our per-person funding from BCPS is used for everything from classroom supplies to paying the rent. Watershed needs to raise money through grants and donations to make sure we can weather the rainy days. Our building is 7 years old and needs some TLC to modernize. We would love to have a proper HVAC system to keep our rooms comfortable and to fix our boiler, which I suspect might privately hate us. Every time we have to fix something in the building, this is taking money away from things such as field trips and learning tools. We have to be creative with a smaller pool of resources. You can help to change that, though, by supporting House Bill 1430. The $1,600 per person facility money provided by the bill would help us to take care of our school building while keeping students safe, happy, and learning. Please support charter school students in the same way you would support any other public school students by supporting House Bill 1430. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. My name is Sir Dickens, and I'm a student at CMIT South Elementary School. I really love my school because we learn in a different way maybe than other schools. At CMIT South Elementary, we learn about science, technology, engineering, and math. We do experiments, build things, and work together to solve problems. There are many great things happening at CMIT that it's hard for me to choose just one favorite. Not only we do exciting things in the classroom, but we also have events outside the classroom that help us grow as students. For example, we have events like the STEM Fair Museum, Cookbook Extravaganza, and the Winter Concert, and the Winter Bazaar, where students showcase their entrepreneur skills. This year, I also had the chance to perform as Michael Jackson in our Black History Month program. Experiences like these help build our confidence and help us become better students. Even with all these amazing opportunities, sometimes our teachers have to do a lot with only a little. At CMIT South, we have classes like Lego Engineering, Maker's Lab, and Technology in addition to our core subjects. Our teachers work very hard to give us great lessons, but there are times when we could do even more if we had more resources. If our school received additional funding for facilities, it could make a big difference for students like me. More funding for our buildings means more money can stay in our classrooms. That could mean more science supplies, more technology, and more tools that could help us learn by doing. Imagine having more robotic kits, better science equipment, and more materials to build and test our ideas. That would help us explore, ask questions, and become the critical thinkers we need to be. After all, isn't the goal to prepare us to be the future leaders of the 21st century? Our teachers already do an amazing job helping us learn, think critically, and dream big with a little more support for our school facilities. They could do even more for students like me. I love my school, and I am proud to be a CMIT South Elementary Tiger. Thank you for listening and for supporting our future. Have a horrific day.
Good afternoon, Chair and member of the committee. My name is Ava Turner. I am a Baltimore parent and a Maryland taxpayer. I have a kindergarten at KIPP, Harmony Academy, and my son attended Bard Early High School, Early College, and Forestville Park High School. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in supporting of HB 1430. For a parent like me, this bill is not about choosing one type of public school over another. It is about fairness for all public schools students. My children attended different kind of school, but they all deserve the same basic foundation, learning environment that support their success. All Maryland charter schools are public schools, yet they must pay for their building using funding meant for classroom and instruction. This or that forces school to make difficult choices between maintaining facility and investing in student program. No school should have to make that choice. HB 1430 help address the inequity by providing access to dedicated facility funding, allowing school to maintain safe, functional building. Then our schools can focus on investments and resources on teaching and learning. Just as important, the bill allowed Maryland to draw down federal facility funding that is already available, bringing additional resources into our state public school rather than leaving them on the table. I respectfully ask the committee to give HB 1430 a favorable report so that Maryland Public Charter School can learn in a safe, well-maintained environment they deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration, and God bless you all.
Any questions for the sponsor, our students, teacher? Delegate Tolles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for little Michael. Are you going to sing for us? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Where is CMIT located? And you,
It is located at 6151 Chevy Chase Drive, Laurel, Maryland.
Okay, so I think that's the chair's district.
It is, and more importantly, the speaker's children went to CMIT.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms.
All right, great. Your parents will tell you the significance of that later. Delegate Grice.
I have a question for the students. Were you guys nervous coming in here at all? Be honest.
I mean, I was pretty much.
Well, I can tell you it didn't show. You guys were very, very poised, much more so than.
Great job. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good day. We have some more witnesses on this. In favor, Claudia Chang, Mackenzie Allen, and Sarah Sample. And we have a virtual witness which we can pull up. It's also in favor of Ronald Rice.
Yeah, that's Ron.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Mackenzie Allen, and I'm with the Maryland Alliance of Public Charter Schools that represents those 25,000 students enrolled in public charter schools across our state. We've submitted written testimony in strong favor of HB 1430, and I'm here today primarily if you have any actual questions about charter schools and the function of charter schools. I did want to briefly highlight a few points. First, this bill does not reduce or divert any funding from existing school construction funding. It establishes a separate facilities funding stream through a general fund appropriation of about $40 million. Second, today, many charter schools must pay facilities costs out of their blueprint funding, which means tens of millions of dollars intended for classrooms are often used to cover building costs annually. And finally, establishing this program would allow Maryland to pursue the State Charter School Facilities Incentive Grant, also known as SFIG, a federal opportunity that can provide up to $10 million per year for 5 years in federal matching funds that the state currently cannot access because it does not have a per pupil charter school facilities funding law on the books. Ultimately, this bill helps ensure that public school students, staff, educators, administrators, and families in charter schools are treated with the same respect in regards to safe, welcoming, and inclusive learning environments as their traditional peers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, and members of the committee. My name is Claudia Chang, and I serve as the Governing Board President of Chesapeake Science Point Public Charter School, a K-12 school in Anne Arundel County. I've had a student at CSP for the past 15 years. I'm also the proud parent of 2 alumni, and I currently have a 9th grader and a 4th grader in the school. The CSP community is strong and proud. We are academically successful and offer highly competitive STEM programs at every grade level. Our school is rated 5 stars by the Maryland State Department of Education. Just last night, our students received numerous awards at the Anne Arundel County Science Fair, and last weekend, our high school robotics team placed first in our regional competition. Our elementary students also demonstrate some of the highest math growth rates across the state. We're a diverse community representing students from more than 40 countries. While we are proud of these accomplishments, they did not come without challenges. One thing that could have made a significant difference is increased funding. Like many charter schools, we must be creative in how we support our students and ensure that they can reach their full potential. With your support and the passage of this bill, we could extend opportunities even further. These funds would allow us to increase staffing, invest in curriculum resources, and provide more enrichment opportunities that directly benefit our students. The reality is that before we can put money into the classrooms and instruction, we have to pay the bills first. Charter schools spend on average about 20% of our per pupil funding on facilities and operations. Simply put, funding this bill would mean more money in the classroom and a direct impact on student achievement. Even more importantly, once this becomes Maryland law, it would allow schools to access federal funding. Over the next 5 years, Maryland could receive up to $50 million in federal funds for public education students. I respectfully ask that you vote in favor of this bill so that our public school students have access to the opportunities they deserve. Our students are already achieving incredible things. Now we're asking you to give them the resources that they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Sample, again, here on behalf of the Maryland Association of Counties, and we are here to support with amendment House Bill 1430. Obviously, the need for school projects, repair and maintenance, renovations is significant across the board. We have no quarrel with what the bill is intending to do in terms of trying to get funding to the public charter schools. We just had one component of the bill that we wanted to make sure was clarified, is that the funding is intended from this new setup to bypass the local school system and bypass the county government and go directly to the schools. We are totally fine with that, but that also means we wouldn't have any knowledge of some of the contracts they're taking on, any debt that they're taking on, and things along those lines. So we just wanted some clarifying language that is saying that this is not a county or school system obligation to provide like a match or any kind of debt service or any funding obligation as a result of potentially defaulting on any of the funds that maybe were leveraged. So I think in terms of language to fix that, I think it would be pretty simple, and I'm happy to work with the sponsor on it. And yeah, so we're happy to support with the amendment. Thank you.
Testimony. Any questions for the panel? Okay, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I think that concludes the bill hearing. Oh, we do, I'm sorry, Ronald Rice, our virtual witness. Good to see you there on the screen, my friend.
Hi,
Welcome. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ron Rice. I serve as the Senior Director at the National Alliance of Public Charter Schools, and I also serve on the board of the Maryland Alliance of Public Charter Schools. And before that, in another life, I was a city councilman in Newark, New Jersey for 2 terms. Very proud of that service. Currently, I am also now a resident of Montgomery County, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide some context on a federal program that may be relevant to the legislation before you today. The program is called the State Charter School Facilities Incentive Grant, and it's commonly referred to as SFIG. It is a competitive federal grant administered by the Department of Ed through the Charter Schools program at the federal level. And the purpose of the program is to help states establish or expand or strengthen per pupil facilities funding programs for charter schools. And one important feature of the program is that SFIG funding is not awarded directly to individual charter schools. Rather, the grant is awarded to states, like the state of Maryland, which then distribute funds through a state-level facilities funding program that must be established in state law. And that's why it's germane to our discussion here. Because of the structure, states generally must have a per pupil charter school facilities aid program written into statute in order to be eligible to apply. And legislation like HB 1430 would establish that type of framework in Maryland, which is why the bill is relevant to this federal opportunity and will allow states like Maryland to apply And because not many states do apply, Maryland would be in a good place to actually receive those dollars from the federal government. The program is structured as a federal-state partnership, and federal funds are designed to match a state's investment in charter school facilities. So in the early years of the program, the federal government provides a larger share of the funding, and over time, the state share increases as the program becomes more fully established within the state's parameters. And in recent federal grant cycles, the program has made up to approximately $10 million per year available to participating states, and awards can last for up to 5 years. And this means that a state could potentially receive as much as $50 million in federal support over the life of that particular grant, depending on federal appropriations and the strength of the state's application. And the application process itself is competitive, and it's administered by the Department of Ed at the federal level. And states submit a proposal describing their facility's funding program, how funds will be distributed to schools, and how the state will meet the required matching contributions, and how the program will be implemented and monitored. Applications are then reviewed and scored by a federal evaluator, and it's based on demonstrated need for facilities. If the state receives the grant, it can be used to support charter school facility costs such as rent, building, acquisition, construction, and related items. In short, programs like SFIG are designed to encourage states to build sustainable facility funding
Thank you, Ronald.
systems. Thank you.
We have
Thank
a
you for the
2-minute.
opportunity.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you, and thanks for the information on the federal grants. I think it's very useful. Any questions for the witness? Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your advocacy. Have a good day. Let's move now to Delegate Tolles. Oh, yeah, we did have a witness here who was unfavorable, but I think he has decided to rely on his written testimony. I don't see him here, so he'll rely on his written testimony. That concludes the bill hearing. House Bill 1397, Delegate Tolles.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Would it be okay if Alex Donahue joined me? Just for, okay, thank you. Thank you, and I hate to follow these young people. I know I'm not going to be as eloquent as they were. They did a wonderful job. But HB 1397, school construction gross area baseline calculation, aquatic facilities. I wanted to do this bill because I think that we have to find innovative and unique ways to support a swimming curriculum in our school system. We want to leave our children with a skill, particularly if it is impacting the lives of our children, where minorities are the highest group of kids who drown from not knowing how to swim. And so, you know, the idea is to, well, let me back up and say that I don't want to get into the whole history of it in the essence of time, but there is again, a issue as it relates to, you know, minorities drowning at a higher rate. And also, if you've seen the reports over the interim where Baltimore County do not have any pools at their schools, Prince George's don't have any pools at their schools. And so we're not giving our children a fair opportunity to compete as it relates to swimming, what's it called, swimming programs where they can be competitive, as you see in other jurisdictions. And also, it gives the ability for our children to be able to have part-time jobs. I mean, it's just an overall well-balanced approach that we should be taking, finding innovative ways for our children to learn how to swim. And my thought is that we can use this gross area baseline construction calculation to be able to put these pools, if the jurisdiction would like that calculation, to put them in gymnasiums and other areas, well, not other areas, but gymnasium is part of a physical education program. And, you know, the idea is that I would like to determine, or not me, but Mr. Donahue and his team, to determine the highest need schools, and essentially to incorporate the educational sufficiency of each facility with their, overall score. So so we have a whole system in which we're looking to find ways in which we can create a place where we can afford to have pools in the schools and to make it more equitable. And in my opinion, the baseline construction dollars will be able to do that, to basically offer pools as an option. I do have some amendments as part of that. One of the amendments is to allow for, as I indicated, our health curriculum and physical education, programs to be able to incorporate swimming as part of that. And Mr. Donahue and I have been talking about ways to make this happen. It's really complicated. So I think he has some thoughts that we can work on some things over the interim. If you want to just add to that, that'd be great.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and Delegate Tolles. The process to fund a new capital item such as aquatic centers within school construction is definitely doable. It is technically challenging because it is not currently done. It's a little bit of a unique twist, and there are a number of issues that will have to be worked through to ensure equity. And I think that if we're going to do this, it will need to have some homework done. And so the delegate's suggestion of a work group in the interim, I think would be a very, very positive thing, in that it would also allow LEA and county input before a policy is determined and a technical mechanism is put in place. Because of the high cost of pools, $3 to $4 million each these days, I want to make sure that we get this homework done correctly and get it done right. And so I would absolutely be happy to work with the committee to facilitate that in the coming months if that's the choice.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, any questions for our colleague who we love from this committee? Or for the other? Delegate Acevedo.
Hi. I picked on Montgomery County, so you chiming in.
No, actually, I'll be very, very brief. This is for each school, or how?
So, and Mr. Donahue can chime in. The idea is that you get, okay, so Charles County, right? They have pools, but they have an MOU with Parks and Recreation. So every high school in Charles County has a pool as part of that school. And so the idea is that it'd be unaffordable for every school, right? And so we're looking to create an equitable approach to how you do that. And that's where we need some time to figure out what that look like. And Mr. Donahue can expand on that.
I'll just note that the community needs really should be taken into account here so that equitable access across a county can be factored into where a pool might be supportable. And it's going to be a little different in each place, and I want to make sure that we have a process and a mechanism that would support that kind of look at the equity side before funding is simply attached to a project.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Delegate Metzger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say this statement. Delegate Tolles, this is tremendous. I think every good bill starts with a great conversation. Okay. And I think in my county, in Baltimore County, you're absolutely right. I see these beautiful schools, and they could have the icing on the cake with the school swimming program. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Delegate Metzger. It wasn't as wonderful as your prayer this morning, but it's a great start of a conversation. And I think that's what I'm attempting to do here, is to get this conversation going, because there is a need, but obviously there's affordability issue and trying to figure out the right approach, the right mechanism, the right legislation, the right tools. That's what I'm attempting to do. So I appreciate your comment.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm hearing a lot of amens near me, Delegate
A lot of
Metzger.
amens today.
All right.
Just love this committee. Thank you.
Colleagues, any other questions? All right, thank you. We're done with the hearing on that. Thank you for testifying. We're next going to go to Delegate Shetty, House Bill 1490. Delegate Phillips, we should be taking you next, and then Embry.
Thank you for letting me sit. Thank you, committee, for allowing me the opportunity to present ahead of some of my colleagues, and thank you, colleagues, for allowing this as well. Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Kaiser, esteemed members of the House Appropriations Committee, for the record, Emily Shetty, here to present HB 1490. What this bill does is it addresses yet another problem in which we are punishing people who live in poverty from being able to seek benefits to which they're entitled. So you all might recall last year, you all voted, and thank you for this, for a bill that phased out a really terrible practice we had in this state where in order for a person to be eligible to receive TCA beneficiaries, if they're a custodial parent, they have to surrender their child support that they receive. So instead of receiving the money for their kid that a court had indicated that they were obligated, they were giving it to the government for the privilege of getting oftentimes less benefits than the child support order was for. What this bill does is address kind of a similar related issue. In order to apply for TCA at all, if you are a custodial parent, you have to surrender the name, the contact info for the non-custodial parent. And sometimes that is really dangerous to do. What our state law allows for is for the department on a case-by-case basis to develop policies to provide exceptions using what's called a good cause exception. Does this person who is seeking benefits that they're entitled to have a good reason that they should not have to cooperate with the child support requirements in TCA? As a matter of policy, the administration already has some policies that they loosely adhere to on a case-by-case basis. However, in order to be made eligible to review, you still have to turn over the information to the Child Support Administration Agency to establish paternity and to begin that process before you can even seek a good cause exception. So in our budget hearing, we heard that a huge percentage of cases of individuals who were seeking TCA were actually closed because they weren't able to cooperate or chose not to cooperate. And we don't even know the number of cases of individuals who are eligible for TCA who have decided not to apply at all because they would be forced to go through this process. So what this bill does is it sets a uniform standard in law of what qualifies as a good cause exception. So things like, is the person a victim of domestic violence, right? Is this person a victim of incest or rape? Like, is there good reason that this person shouldn't have to provide paternity information to the state just to get the benefits of temporary cash assistance that they're eligible for? So that's what this bill does. It is a bill that I'm really proud to have worked with some really strong advocates on to address, again, systemic problems we have in our system on how we deal with poverty in our state. So thank you, colleagues, for the opportunity to present testimony, and I request a favorable report. Thank you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Medeo. I'm an attorney with the Public Justice Center's Health and Benefits Equity Team. And we're here in strong support of House Bill 1490. We've worked with many families who are eligible for TCA, but who are wrongfully denied when they have valid reasons not to apply for child support and they're not granted good cause. Just to give an example of a very common scenario, we've met so many families who are in crisis, fleeing domestic violence, oftentimes with nothing but their kids in their hand and the clothes on their back. They're in shelter, they're hiding from their abuser, and they have no income, they've left their job, their home, they have nothing, and they come to apply for TCA, which is designed for this very purpose of crisis and supporting kids living in poverty. And when they apply for TCA, the first thing that happens is they receive a notice that says, in order to get approved, you must apply for child support, which is a separate agency, a whole separate process. And they're not told anything about the good cause exemption that it exists currently under the department's regs. They're not told how to seek that good cause or screened for domestic violence or any other reasons why they might not have to comply. And so oftentimes people who are eligible get denied. This practice, although Maryland has flexibility under Maryland regs and federal law, only 7 cases of good cause were actually granted in 2024, and the domestic violence exemption was granted to 0 families in fiscal year 23. So Maryland is not providing the good cause exemptions that exist, which is why we support HB 1490, which will put into law the current practices and provide some protections and standard processes so that when families are applying for TCA, they're notified about the availability of good cause, how to seek it, and the department helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Maya Brown. Good afternoon. I am a District 46 resident, and I'm a mom and an advocate. I was denied TCA, and I was fleeing for my life with my toddler because I had my daughter IVF. No one at DHS knew what that was. I had the proper paperwork, and I was held up for 3 months and told I have to go to child support, and I didn't know where it was. I had fled from New York all the way here because my ex-husband was driving on the highway trying to kill us. And my child I had via IVF, and it's not his child. So because he's a lunatic, I told them, and they denied me, saying I have to prove I'm not getting child support. So I had to go to child support after 3 months. That's where I met Michelle, advocating, and I definitely felt that me fleeing, being in danger of my life and my child's life was definitely probable cause for me to get TCA, because that would get me out of the domestic violence shelter. I didn't want to have a vacation in the shelter. So, I mean, they need to not judge everyone. Everyone's situation is different. You know, I was never in a shelter. I never was in this situation, and I was scared, and no one was telling me any information. They just kept telling me to go online and apply. Well, you have to come back tomorrow. I just kept asking for a manager, and then the security was telling me, well, if I come back every day, hopefully I'll get to speak to someone. But when I went to Hunts Valley, which was an hour from Dundalk, where I had to take a taxi, and House of Ruth kept asking me, why am I depleting their taxi service? Because I don't have proof from DHS that I am getting TCA because it was held up. So there was no proof anywhere. It was like I was just having a vacation in the taxis. So they immediately, when I gave her the IVF form from my doctor, the endocrinologist, she gave it to me that day. I feel that that was just injustice, because to give me all that stress and worry, I was scared to death. I mean, I don't know who plays games with domestic violence, but I'm glad I'm a survivor, that I'm here to tell you about it, because the way it was going, I even had all the county police know my name, because I literally had them following me because I was being tracked. So, I mean, this is serious, you know, so I definitely support this Bill 1490, and I feel that I'm here for all the other single moms and domestic violence victims in support of it. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown, for sharing your story and your bravery in coming here today, and thank you both for your testimony. Are there questions from any of my colleagues? If not, thank you all very much. Thank you, Delegate Shetty. I think I'm handing the ranks over to Delegate Smith, but Delegate Phillips, I think you're next up.
and to the Appropriations Committee. It's Scott Phillips, 10th District, and I'm here asking for a favorable report on House Bill 1125. This request just addresses a gap that's currently in our processes for transparent government. This came out of a scenario in Catonsville in the 10th District where a tower was being built in Patapsco, and many of the residents were very concerned because they had no notice that this tower was going to go up, both from an environmental perspective and from a sightline perspective and the impact on their community. So under this bill, agencies that are involved in a capital project that exceeds $2 million and involves structures taller than 75 feet would have to go through a process of providing information to the community. The legislation generally requires that there would be some direct mail, online newspaper public notice, at least one public meeting, and a 30-day public comment period. Finally, agencies would have to submit a documented outreach efforts and community feedback to the Department of Budget and Management, which will compile and transmit those reports to local governments and the General Assembly. HB 1125 is not intended to halt or delay projects. Instead, it ensures that when major state infrastructure is built in or near communities, these communities are informed, engaged, and given opportunity to be heard. By creating a transparent and predictable engagement process, this bill strengthens public trust while helping agencies make better informed decisions. This bill was cross-filed with my senator, Senator Brooks, in response to the concerns that have come from our constituents.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there any questions for the good delegate? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. And that concludes the bill hearing for 1125. Next, we'll be hearing from Delegate Embry, House Bill 1311. And also, this bill and the next bill from Delegate Embry are both jointly assigned to government, labor, and elections. And so I just want to welcome Delegate Crutchfield, who's joining us from DOE. The floor is yours.
Come up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's lovely to say that. And everyone else who's here, it's good to see you again. So I have the great honor of serving along with Delegates Simpson and Hester on the Prison Education Delivery Reform Commission, along with the members who are here supporting this legislation. And both pieces of legislation arise from the work of that group. And both from specifically the committee within that commission that focuses on higher education. And so I thank them all for the ideas and for the support. So the first bill is I would say the easier of the two bills because it doesn't cost really anything. So we know that higher education in prison is one of the most effective ways to reduce recidivism. A Vera Institute report recently showed a 2/3 reduction in recidivism. So it's a proven way for us to help people who are incarcerated and also save money on having to reincarcerate folks. So there is a savings, although I can't calculate it, but it is there and it's real. So the first bill addresses access to state need-based aid. So even though the aid programs aren't explicitly limited to non-incarcerated individuals, it has proven a barrier, and the people here who have experience with this will talk about how it's been a barrier because the system's not quite set up. It's unclear. So we want to make sure that MHEC makes clear on their website in every possible way and is ready to make sure that incarceration would not bar someone from eligibility. There may be other criteria in the need-based programs that would. Like you have to be a full-time on-campus student, then they would not be eligible. But it's just saying that incarceration alone is not, does not make you ineligible. And then it also directs DPSCS to work actively with incarcerated people to make sure they have access to Pell Grants and all the all the aid possible. And I'll save part of the reason for that for the next bill, but we want to make sure we're maximizing every federal dollar we can get for obvious reasons. And now we also want to make sure that if they are able to obtain need-based state aid, we're also maximizing that. Because right now, the higher education institutions like the University of Baltimore, they're absorbing the costs. And so anything we can do to help those institutions and help students make this something that more people can take advantage of, I think, we're doing good for so many reasons. So with that, I will stop talking, and I urge a favorable report.
Before we hear the additional testimony, I just want to lift up that at 3:30, we do have a hard stop as a committee for the Bureau of Revenue Estimates presentation that will be happening in this room. So that can help you determine if you need to say, I agree, or if you're saying something different. But every other witness has 2 minutes to give testimony maximum. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll try to be very fast. And I'm chair of the Prison Education and Delivery System Commission appointed by the governor, and I've just been so happy that we've had 3 delegates come out and visit the prisons. I do not speak on behalf of the commission supporting this bill. Personally, I do, but the recommendations we made, 15 of them, 2 of these result in this bill and the next one. I've worked for 50 years, I can't believe it's been that long, in the correctional system and as a professor in Federal Bureau of Prisons, state of Maryland. And I've seen firsthand the change people have going to school and then going to college. So I testify personally, as well as the research done by the RAND Corporation that shows the more education you get, the less chance you recidivate. And so this bill pays for itself in future reduction of costs. And so currently Pell Grants, as mentioned, do not cover sufficiently all the costs, and the colleges have to absorb them. We're losing Warwick Tech on the Eastern Shore because they cannot afford it. So I urge that the support for this bill to allow folks who are incarcerated to apply. Thank you.
Great, thank you. My name is Andrea Cantora, and I am testifying in support of this bill, House Bill 1311. I am a faculty member at the University of Baltimore, and I have directed our university's higher ed and prison program for the past 10 years. Since 2016, our program has graduated 17 students with their bachelor's degree. Our graduates who started their education in prison are doing incredible things. They are working living wage jobs within the city of Baltimore and around the state of Maryland. They are contributing taxpayers, homeowners, and civically engaged in their communities. Their success would not be possible without federal Pell Grants, university support, and private funding. The majority of an incarcerated student's tuition is covered by Pell Grants. Pell Grants, however, do not cover the full cost of a student's tuition. Higher ed institutions are left to figure out the alternative ways to cover tuition difference. There are many colleges in Maryland who are interested in providing college education to incarcerated students. However, every college in the state is not able to cover that tuition cost. Unfortunately, I've witnessed higher ed and prison programs shut down in Maryland and around the country because they do not have financial resources to cover tuition and other program costs. If incarcerated students had access to both federal and state financial aid, college and universities would be better positioned to provide post-secondary opportunities. Supporting this bill means supporting education access for all college students in Maryland. Everything we do to expand education access has great impact on our state. With an incarcerated student participating in higher education program, they are less likely to return to prison, more likely to find work, more likely to earn a higher income than those who do not participate in such programs. Today, there are approximately 300 incarcerated students in the state taking college courses. I believe that number would increase if House Bill 1311 were to pass. For those reasons, I encourage you to support this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Thomas Anderson, and I'm here in strong support of expanding access to higher education for incarcerated students here in Maryland. I speak to you as a man who spent 22 and a half years behind prison walls. And while I was there, I had the opportunity to begin my college career. That experience changed me and transformed the trajectory of my life. Since coming home in 2019, my education enabled me to rebuild my life. Today, I hold a bachelor's degree from the University of Baltimore. I'm currently working on my master's degree, and I am the founding president of an organization called Manumission House, which is a nonprofit organization providing housing for returning citizens wanting to continue their education. Research is clear concerning post-secondary education here in Maryland. It enables individuals to begin to see themselves as vital citizens capable of positively contributing to society. It restores hope, discipline, dignity. It increases critical thinking skills and employability. It reduces recidivism and the overarching cost of mass incarceration. Prison education today will even change our children's lives in the future, because when incarcerated parents are in college, their children are far more likely to go to college themselves, helping to break that chain of recidivism and gentrification. So when we invest in education on the inside, we simultaneously invest in our community on the outside. So I respectfully request that you vote favorably for HB 1311. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony and advocacy. Good to see you, Delegate. Any questions for the panel? Okay, thank you all for being with us. Great day. What's it? Yep, I'm gonna, you stay there, Delegate. We're gonna get you out of here, even though right after your bill, we're gonna pause and take our BRE hearing, but you can stay for House Bill 1313.
Great.
Stephen Strower and Thomas Anderson are with you.
Thank you. I'll try to be even quicker. So this bill is related, and that it's again an effort to support higher education for incarcerated people. This expands the tuition waiver to also cover incarcerated students. So right now, as you've heard, the educational institutions are effectively absorbing the cost because, the difference between the Pell Grants and private funding is being supported by the institutions. This would expand what they're bearing, because I think if we did this, we'd have more people applying. The bill 1313 does make clear that the students would first have to exhaust, or not have to exhaust, but have to apply for, and then what they receive in federal and state funding, that would first go to pay tuition, and then the waiver would come on top of that. So, so this, again, in a sense, it is adding a cost, because even though the cost is currently being absorbed, if this passes, I would anticipate higher use of the waiver by more students, which is what we want, because we want to help people and reduce the likelihood that they'll return to prison. But I do acknowledge the cost. And the university system wrote, I thought, a really helpful letter of information explaining this is in line with what they want to do. They want to expand their support and education of people in incarceration, but they also described that it costs them money. So I encourage you to read that if you haven't already, and I appreciate your time and urge a favorable report on this bill as well.
I'll just depart from my, let me share with you, the state of Maryland, and I've always considered Maryland, where I've lived for 40 years, to be a very progressive state. But in my position some years ago as the head of an executive director of a National Teachers Association, I visited states all over the country. Maryland lags behind in support of post-secondary education. States like Ohio, states like Texas, that are normally more on the conservative side, have been supporting post-secondary education with state funding for years. And so this is not I don't mean to say this is a partisan issue, but it becomes a bipartisan situation. We should look at the issue itself and support college education for our own public safety, for the growth of our communities, and for changing the trajectory of many lives in our cities. Thank you.
Thank you again for allowing me to speak. My name is Thomas Anderson, and I am in support of HB 1313. Now that the nerves are out the way, let me say that in 1997, I stood in front of a judge, and he slammed the gavel, and he sentenced me to life in prison. My knees literally buckled under all that weight. And when I was ushered into the bullpen, I cried with convulsions. My mouth was wide open, tears was running down my eyes, but I couldn't say a word because it felt like somebody or something had snatched my breath from my body. And I thought that prison was the place where potential goes to die. And I thought I was going to die in that place. And one day I came across a book called The Narrative and Life of Frederick Douglass. And in that book, he spoke about the power and importance of an education. It was then that I realized that if I was ever going to be free externally, I had to be free in the mind. And I understood that education was the only thing that could really liberate me. And so I began to pursue my education when the University of Baltimore came into the institution, and I learned diligently with all my might. And a few years later, after having a life sentence, I was released in 2019. That would not have been possible if it were not for freeing me in here first. And now I'm in the process of continuing to grow and evolve and to help others free themselves in their mind. And there are a lot of people that's on the inside who's looking for the same opportunity that I have. So I ask that you vote favorably for this bill.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the panel, bill sponsor? All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a good one. So we're going to do now, committee, is we are going to break for about 3 minutes and come back at 3:30. We're going to adjourn, and then we'll do our BRE briefing, and then we'll come back, adjourn, and do our bill hearings.